All right, a federal judge in Tennessee has temporarily blocked the gender identity guidelines issued last year by President Biden's Education Department. Now, the court sided with a coalition of 20 Republican state attorneys general in saying that the Biden administration overreached with its directives on girls' sports, pronouns, locker rooms, and bathrooms. Now, this decision is particularly relevant in light of the proposed radical rewrite of Title IX that the Biden administration put out formally last week. Joining me now to discuss this and more is one of the attorney generals in the lawsuit, Montana Attorney General Austin Knudsen. Attorney General Knudsen, welcome to Washington Watch.
Thanks for having me.
Well, first off, congratulations on this court ruling. Let me ask you, did you anticipate this result from the lawsuit?
We did. We felt we were on very solid footing on this one. And frankly, the administration went too far. I think they knew they went too far. They kind of admitted as much, that this was a wholesale change in rulemaking. But when you look at Bostock, whatever you think about Bostock, the Bostock court was very clear. And the court specifically said, we do not apply this ruling to other states having to do with locker rooms and bathrooms and exactly the kind of issues that the Department of Education tried to foist on us anyway here. So I think we were on good footing here, and I think the court here got this one right.
Let me get you to explain that to our viewers and listeners. Bostock was a case dealing with Title VII, which was employment law. The Biden administration, looking for anything and everything they can to expand their agenda, use that to try to force schools to kind of redefine gender in terms of what's happening at the level of schools across the country. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's basically right. Bostock was a case. Well, back up. Title VII of the Civil Rights Act just says you can't discriminate against an employee on the basis of sex. Okay, what the Bostock ruling said in 2020 is the Supreme Court basically read in your sexual orientation and possible transgenderism with that, your gender identity. Agree with that, don't agree with that. That ruling was specifically only for Title VII and employment law. So you're exactly right. And what the Biden administration did here, despite a clear warning from the Supreme Court not to do so, they used it as a leverage point and a wholesale expansion into education law, which gets us into Title IX of the Education Amendments Act, which is what they tried to do here.
And General Knudsen, again, grateful for the Republican attorneys general that are standing guard and have been filing many suits against the overreach of this administration. This ruling that came out on Friday, does this only apply to the 20 states that were in the lawsuit?
It does. My reading of the judge's order, and I've been through it with a pretty fine-tooth comb, it only applies to the plaintiff states. This was not a nationwide injunction. So we're very thankful we got the states on board that we did. I wish there had been some more, but yeah, I think the judge's order makes it pretty clear. This is just for the states who were involved in this lawsuit. So we'll see where this goes.
Let's talk about that, because this is a temporary block on the implementation. But what are the next steps?
Well, I think very likely what happens here is the Department of Education and the Biden administration will appeal this. That'll be in the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, generally of a quite fair circuit. I think we'll get a good hearing there, and we'll see what the justices in that circuit decide they want to do. And depending on outcome there, I think very likely this ends up at the U.S. Supreme Court, as we've seen with so many of these important cases that as you said, Republican attorneys general like myself are pushing under the Biden administration. This is what we're having to resort to. This is kind of the last tool in our toolbox to fight this sort of just blatant overreach from the Biden administration. Is we have to sue them, and we've shown we're willing to do that.
And of course, most of these 20 states have passed legislation protecting women's sports, so this has very practical, immediate implications for your states. But this has broader implications. If this goes through the courts all the way to the Supreme Court, as you suggest, it could, and the court continues with this ruling that this is an overreach, stretching the Bostock decision, this could have implications for the Title IX rules that were just issued last week by the Biden administration, because they do essentially the same thing based upon the same shaky legal ground.
It absolutely does. And what I think probably ties in even more, we had an EPA ruling come out of the U.S. Supreme Court just within the last 2 weeks that also made it very clear that the court was not going to look kindly on agencies promulgating rules under the Administrative Procedures Act without following notice and comment period. And I think we've certainly shown that in this case. That's exactly what happened. So I think you're right. I think we're going to see a U.S. Supreme Court that's not going to look at this case very favorably, nor at cases like it very favorably. But like I said, it's going to depend on what the Sixth Circuit does first. I hate to get the cart too far in front of the horse.
Sure, but I mean, we got to use what's before us, and you've got the attorneys general have taken a stand on this issue based upon the law. Very quickly, General Knudsen, just about out of time here, but we're on probably about a dozen stations there in Montana. Have you heard from your constituents on issues like boys competing in girls' sports?
This is a very hot topic in Montana. Absolutely. We did have legislation go through our state legislature last year, carried by my good friend, Representative John Fuller, longtime educator, Marine veteran of Vietnam. And it was the Save Women's Sports Act. This is a hot issue in Montana. And now because of this ruling, that law stands, and it's not okay for transgender boys to compete against girls and women in Montana.
Again, General, congratulations, and we appreciate the leadership that all the Republican attorneys general are playing in providing right now in being a backstop to stop this administration's overreach. Good to have you on the program today.
You bet.